Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, The Rise of Non-Alcohol Beverages. Thanks so much for joining us today. My name is Katie, and I'm a part of the marketing team here at Numerator. Before we get started, I have a couple of housekeeping items to cover. Given the number of attendees, everyone is muted. And we're keeping this webinar short while covering a lot of content, so we won't have time for Q&A. However, please post your questions or comments in the big marker control panel on your right, so we can follow up as appropriate. You can send your questions to hello@numerator.com. We're always here to answer them. This presentation is being recorded and will be sent to you after the webinar. And with that, I'd actually like to introduce today's presenters. Emily Bluer, Numerator's Senior Consumer Insights Consultant, and Jake DeSanto, Numerator's Consumer Insights Consultant. And without further ado, I will hand it over to Emily to get us started.
Thanks, Katie. I also want to give credit to the other amazing contributors who worked on this thought leadership with us: Scott Johnston, Caitlin Lovegrove, and Tim Lurs. Non-alc, or NA, has been a hot topic for many CPGs and retailers as of late. The category is no longer just a trending topic during the month of dry January, but becoming a lifestyle for some and a part of consumers' consistent drinking routines. NA is fast growing, now twice the size it was 3 years ago. Consumers are shifting their preferences towards healthier lifestyles, including drinking less, and retailers and brands have to move with the shopper and meet them where they're at. NA also offers companies the opportunity to expand their portfolios into new spaces previously not in reach. In this study, we leveraged Numerator's OmniPanel and TrueView capabilities, along with our instant survey and qualitative offerings. For the purposes of this study, we define non-alcohol as any spiritless beer, wine, spirits, or canned mocktail offering. Non-alc is one of the fastest growing categories with a 38% 4-year compound annual growth rate, falling right behind ready-to-drink cocktails and outpacing high-growth categories like tequila, as well as the entire alcohol and beverages sectors. If NA continues on its same growth trajectory, it is projected to grow by over 500 million next year. And what's most exciting about that growth is that the majority of it could be incremental. One key theme we found throughout was how incremental non-alc is to total alcohol. Shoppers are not making a one-for-one swap, but rather making NA in addition to their current drinking lineup. This is seen through almost a third of NA trips, including alcohol, in the same basket. Non-alc growth is coming from category expansion, where we see shoppers spending more overall on the entire alcohol sector, rather than just shifting volume back and forth from alcohol, proving its incrementality. Non-alc's incrementality can be found in various ways. One way is through its ability to reach non-traditional alcohol channels. A great example is e-com, a traditionally challenging space for BevAlc, where we know shoppers are willing to spend more. Having a brand that drives consumers to your portfolio within e-com is a great way to create stickiness and see success within the channel. NA also sees more of its spend coming from food and mass channels compared to alcohol. With less restriction in regards to legal aspects like liquor laws, non-alc presents an opportunity for alcohol beverage brands to have a stronger presence in food, mass, and online channels. We've also noted through our research that direct-to-consumer is popular among non-alc, allowing these brands to bypass traditional channels. Now we're going to hear directly from a non-alc shopper on why they drink NA and the need for broader accessibility within the category.
And so the question is, how do I perceive non-alcoholic beverages in comparison to alcoholic beverages? And to be clear, I do still drink alcoholic beverages. I enjoy it on the weekends, mostly with dinner. I don't necessarily drink it to be social. I enjoy how it tastes with my food. But as I've become older, I'm realizing I don't necessarily like how I feel after drinking alcohol. If I've drank more than a glass, I don't necessarily like how I feel. So for me, non-alcoholic beverages are a substitute, particularly during the week. Also an alternative, you could say a substitute or an alternative, but I'm not drinking on the same day that I'm drinking alcohol. So if I'm not feeling good and I don't want to drink alcohol, I will enjoy a non-alcoholic beverage. And frankly, I just wish they were more widely available. I don't like that I have to go to a liquor store to get a non-alcoholic beverage because I don't know, I feel like sometimes that's a deterrent. I wish that I could go into a Target or a Stop and Shop. Here in New Jersey, they don't sell alcohol in most grocery stores, but I wish that they would make the non-alcoholic beverages more widely available.
As you can see, there is a clear need in the market for NA as shoppers are hoping for more retailers to carry a broader assortment of non-alc. When looking at where new to non-alc shoppers are likely to make their first purchase, Amazon is the top retailer for entry, which connects with the category's strong over-index within the e-com space. We also see non-alc winning with health-conscious shoppers across mass and food retailers. New to non-alc shoppers are more likely to make their first purchase at retailers offering natural and organic products like Target, Sprouts, and Whole Foods. Non-alc could help brands expand household reach by attracting shoppers who may have previously limited alcohol intake for health reasons. That's not to say, however, that all non-alc drinkers limit their alcohol. In fact, we see that the non-alc shopper is more likely than the average alcohol shopper to consume 2 or more alcoholic drinks per week, as well as drink with meals both inside and outside of the home. These insights show that non-alc is being used as a supplement in addition to alcohol for various drinking occasions throughout the week. And now we're going to hear directly from a consumer on the various occasions he considers for non-alc.
I perceive non-alcoholics in comparison to their alcoholic counterparts when making purchase choices. Well, certainly flavors is a big one. I do think the non-alcoholics taste just like beer now. They've come a long way. But there's not a lot of variety of them. There's so many different flavors of beer and types that are all kind of unique. Where the non-alcoholics, where they've come a long way, there's not as many flavors yet. So I think that would be one way that would, for me, with my comparisons, would really help if there were more choices for non-alcoholics. Do I consider non-alcoholic options substitutes, complements, or alternatives to drinking? Really all the above. Sometimes a complete substitute if it's during the week and I'm watching a sports game. Instead of cracking a beer, I'll crack a non-alcoholic beer. Other times when I'm on the weekend and drinking a lot, I try to work in non-alcoholics to cut back on the drinking, so kind of mixing them. So they're definitely substitutes, complements, and alternatives. I would say all the above.
This consumer clearly outlines that non-alc can be used in different ways, whether it be a substitute, complement, or alternative to alcohol, depending on the need state and occasion. Through our instant survey capability, we actually found that 1 in 2 non-alc shoppers were purchasing for someone other than themselves. We again see the trend of incrementality come through where a secondary consumer is being brought in through the purchase. Being an inclusive host and having options for everyone at the table was a top purchase driver for the category. Focusing marketing efforts on the theme of inclusivity and encouraging consumers to bring the party for everyone will be a huge appeal to the mindset of this shopper. Health reasons also rose to the top for purchase drivers, depending on where the consumer was at in their life and specific health goals. These types of occasions were previously unmet with just alcoholic offerings. Non-alc clearly provides an incremental opportunity for expansion into new occasions within new channels and new consumer groups. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Jake to outline who these key shopper segments are driving growth for non-alc.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Emily. So we've seen a bit about the rise and growth of non-alc, where that growth is coming from, as well as the different purchase occasions. In this next section, I want to dig into the types of shoppers this category is attracting, as well as explore the different products and brands that they're buying. Unlike many other categories in BevAlc that cater to specific or niche audiences, the non-alc category spanned both generation and income levels. As we began to look into the types of shoppers that were purchasing the non-alcoholic category, we began to see 3 distinct groups appear: affluent millennials, non-urban Gen X, and non-affluent boomers. These groups are differentiated not only demographically, but also by the brands of non-alc beverages that they prefer. Affluent millennials enjoy brands that are willing to try new things, like Lagunitas and Sam Adams, who launched their non-alc lines in December of 2020 and March of 2021. We also see them gravitating towards athletic brewing, a brand we'll talk about more in depth in a few slides, but one that specifically caters towards the non-alc shopper through their portfolio and creative branding. Non-urban Gen X favored classic beer brands like Stella and Corona, as well as one of the oldest and most established NA brands, O'Doul's. These shoppers also gravitated towards non-alcoholic wine. Finally, non-affluent boomers opted for more classic, below-premium brands like Coors, Busch, and Budweiser, as well as Beck's and Heineken 00. We saw in the previous slide the types of brands that these different demographic groups were consuming. On this slide, we see the associated growth or decline of both the NA demographic groups as a whole, as well as their preferred respective brands. Affluent millennials, represented by the light blue line on the chart on the left, offered the highest growth opportunity. This group drove a 65% compounded annual growth rate, by far the highest among groups. That, of course, doesn't mean that these other identified groups haven't also seen significant growth. On the contrary, our non-urban Gen X's grew at a 39% clip and non-affluent boomers 22%. If we project that growth to the year ahead, we can expect affluent millennials to increase their spend by $51 million. While this group had the highest CAGR, that is lower than both non-affluent boomers and non-urban Gen X, given the larger makeup of those two other demographic groups. However, as those millennials become increasingly engaged in the category, that will be the target demographic to break into. Now, taking a look at the right-hand side of the screen, we see the most popular NA brands in the space and their current versus year-ago dollar share. Budweiser claims to be the king of beers, and while that's the case currently in terms of the NA space, it also means that everyone has their eye on them to compete, steal market share, and knock them off their pedestal. In fact, the top 3 brands all lost market share to smaller and often newer brands vying for their share of the non-alc market. Who's soaking up the market share? None other than Athletic Brewing. This is the first brand showing positive growth in the chart on the right, as well as a brand that does a really good job catering to the up-and-coming affluent millennials, growing 310 basis points since last year, followed by Corona, Stella, and Sam Adams. Before moving on, let's hear directly from a consumer and hear about some more use cases.
I think non-alcoholic beverages are a good way of being inclusive for everybody. Not everybody can drink or wants to drink, like Markiplier, that very handsome guy who can't have alcohol. And even then, like, I've seen him drinking like the non-alcoholic beers and everything like that. I like having a good variety, but what I don't like about non-alcoholic beers is the fact that they cost like almost the exact same price, if not more, than some of like the regular actual beers that are out there, which that is the problem that I tend to have. Only because I'm not big on, I feel like you're getting less for your money when you are buying something, when you're buying non-alcoholic, and you're not getting a buzz out of it. So since you're not getting a buzz out of it, is it really worth the price? I mean, if you're in a social situation and everybody is drinking and say you're the designated driver, then yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But if you're just like how I do it, which I just kind of hang out in my room and play D&D, hang out with my cats, there's one up there, I don't necessarily need to spend almost, $10 for a pack of 4 or a pack of 6, because I think that's just a little much. I feel like if non-alcoholic beer was at least $3 to $4 less expensive than regular beer, I think a lot more people would actually be more amenable to using it on a regular basis.
That shopper discussed pricing and how the lack of alcohol made her question the higher prices of NA beverages. Added benefits may be one way to reduce fears over higher prices or for shoppers to justify the price point. Given this sentiment, we reached out to verified buyers of NA beverages to gain a better understanding of what would make them more likely to purchase a non-alcoholic beverage. While most respondents didn't need any additional function of their product, 28% did say that if they were to add anything, caffeine could entice them to make a purchase. This was followed by vitamins, of which 24% noted, as well as 22% of respondents who selected electrolytes. One brand that stood out here was Kin Euphorics. Kin is an NA brand that met consumer need states through offering functional benefits and saw double-digit sales growth as a result, around 16% versus the prior year. Brands looking to innovate in this space can take inspiration from them to innovate drinking occasions and highlighting other functionalities of their product outside of just being alcohol-free. NA beverages are exploding, but brands like Kin Euphorics reveal that sometimes further differentiation through meeting additional need states can help a brand to stand out and succeed. Earlier, we took a look at occasions, but seasonality and trends are also important to understand, both in the bev alc and non-alc beverage space. Overall, NA beverages can help brands expand purchasing during peak summer months, such as June, July, and August, as shown below, as well as capture share during dry January. Our chart on the left is taking a look at the index of non-alc beverages share of wallet to alcoholic beverages. We see a large over-index at the start of the year as individuals work to enforce New Year's goals and participate in dry January. This dips in February and then increases during the summer months, where folks are active outdoors and looking for a non-alc alternative when the weather is hot. This only drops precipitously in December before the new year with the holidays and New Year's Eve. You've probably all heard of someone participating in dry January, and maybe you even participated yourself this year. We surveyed 200 households to gauge their interest in this event. What we found was that about a quarter of households participated last year, and that has shot up to nearly 40% this year among NA beverage buyers. Dry January seems to be a trend that not only isn't going away, but is one that is actually gaining traction year over year. Not only this, but drinking NA beverages is no longer attached to just a trend or month of the year. More individuals are experimenting with it and purchasing NA beverages throughout the course of the year. So, what does this mean for you? Existing BevAlc brands should consider expanding their existing BevAlc portfolio to include a non-alcoholic line. You'll attract new, growing segments to your brand and drive incremental growth. The next video from our qualitative analysis highlighted a few NA occasions that Emily spoke about, as well as some that we'll look at in the next section. Let's hear directly from a consumer who participated in dry January and plans to continue throughout the year.
Hey, so I choose to consume non-alcoholic beverages. Right now I'm doing dry January, so there's that. But I also choose not to consume them because, especially as I've gotten into my 30s, like hangovers are just that much more worse. And I just noticed that my body doesn't feel as good after I have alcoholic beverages. So sometimes I take breaks just for a few months at a time or a few weeks at a time, what have you, to kind of give my body a little bit of a break. Even then, been exploring just having more non-alcoholic beverages overall. Like if I have to work the next day, if I have an important presentation, if I have to teach a fitness class the next day, if I know I really have to be doing something, I'll choose to do just non-alcoholic beverages or kind of alternate between the two, just to make sure my body's feeling good the next day. So those are my reasons.
This woman spoke about a host of usage occasions and reasons for consuming NA, including getting older and choosing not to consume as much, relatedly, those hangover feelings being so much worse than they used to, it being nice to occasionally take periodic breaks for weeks or even months at a time, and finally, life responsibilities. Maybe she had work the next day or a presentation, or maybe she was teaching a fitness class. All were great use cases to grab an NA beverage over an alcoholic one. To wrap up our dive into the NA opportunity, we also wanted to take a look at white space opportunities that we see for 2024 from a geographic perspective. Looking at the map below, we see strong over-indexes in regions like the Pacific, Mountain, and East North Central. From a growth perspective, the New England and Mid-Atlantic regions are poised to surge in the coming year if previous growth is replicated once again. There are real opportunities for brands to come in and find high growth in areas that are under indexing. Do you want to capitalize on households with a current understanding of the category, or alternatively, enter a space of the country that underperforms in awareness and build your brand that way, opting for the high value, high risk reward of being the first mover? There is opportunity in both, and different brands will ultimately succeed in choosing different strategies. To wrap things up, what does this mean for your brand and the beverage industry as a whole? Introducing NA variants to your portfolio may be a strategic, growth driven move. We see that NA beverages are incremental to the alcohol category, with $2 and $3 of category growth being net new. This also helps expand upon new consumption occasions during social gatherings and new consumers, such as friends and spouses. One way you can do that is by running occasion trackers or developing demand moments, which is something we often do with our customers to determine how to grow in new spaces. Innovation within NA drinks should also be considered as consumers look for even more in their beverages. Leverage non-alc to expand brand awareness. We saw how this category has allowed for brands to gain distribution in channels that are typically challenged to break into for traditional alcohol brands like online and health food stores. NA brands are also appealing to valuable consumer segments like affluent millennials, potentially serving as an entry point to your brand and driving trial. Segment non-alc marketing by season and life stage. Extend your brand's life with an NA offering that extends purchasing into off-peak times. Marketing NA during and leading up to Dry January or targeting consumers an alternative beverage for alc for personal reasons by offering 0-0 variants of existing brands. Finally, continue to explore this category with Numerator in your consulting, sales, and solution teams. Test your portfolio alignment. See how your existing offering could benefit from innovation, mergers and acquisitions with existing brands to drive that resiliency and offer extra padding during lighter months. Dive into concept testing to figure out what those unmet need spaces are within the NA beverage segment and become a first mover in the space. What are those occasions we may be missing? Work to identify new and incremental occasions NA could tap into. And finally, identify those markets. Zero in on parts of the country, retailers, and underserved markets to grow your portfolio further.
Thanks so much, Jake. A reminder that this recording will be emailed to you today, and thank you again for joining today's webinar. We'd love to hear from you. Reach out to your Numerator representative with any questions or ideas for analysis, or drop us a note at hello@numerator.com. As always, we're here to help. Thank you and have a great rest of your day.